Hi everyone, for our vlog today, we'll be trying out the Danessa Myricks Groundwork Blooming Romance palette. Look at that, isn't that so pretty? Now, I've been actually wanting to try this out ever since I fell in love with the Defining Neutrals palette from her that I tried like, let's say 3 months ago. And I said to myself, like, it's high time that I actually play around with this. And I also find it of good timing that we're doing it at this time of the year because spring is just around the corner, and these are the usual colors that we see at this time. So I'm so excited for this. And also one other thing, I think this palette is great for you to use, especially if you're going out on the date, because this will just make you bloom in front of your partner. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, so on a more serious note, I think this is a great palette to have because you have different formulas here that you can use for your lips, eyes, and cheeks. So that's what we'll be doing today, okay? Alright, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to swatch these colors one by one on my arm because I just want to have a feel of the color and of course of the texture and the pigmentation level so that it can give me an idea on how they will work on my face. So I'm going to start from left to right, top to bottom, okay? Alright, let's start with the color Crush and let's see how it registers here on my arm. Okay, it's a very nice light pink in color. Nice beige shade. Okay, this color is now called Smitten. And let's swatch it here. Okay, so what I can see right now is that the creamy shade, the putty, is actually lighter than the powder. And of course, with the intensity, this shade has just more pink in it in comparison to Crush. So I guess we can use this for very nice either blending in the crease or buffing out color. Okay, so the next color is called Dreamy here. Okay, so this one is warmer in comparison to the two colors, and this looks to have a very nice peachy tone to it, which is great. So in me saying that, I can see that we have a nice collection of cool tone shades and warm tone shades here, and even deep shades that we can use for adding definition on the eyes. So and also me looking at this right now, I can say that if you have blue eyes, green eyes, hazel, or even brown eyes, or even gray eyes, this is going to be perfect for you because this will just make your eye color really pop on the face. Okay, so let's continue. All right, so this is the color Allure, and looking at it here on the palette, it looks like it has a very nice mauvey tone to it. Yeah, very nice color. I love that. It has a moodiness to it that I love. So this can be a good color to use as a transition shade or even a light definition in the socket line. Okay, next color, this is Desire. This one looks to be very warm. Yeah, so this one has a very orangey tone to it. I like that. So if you have blue eyes, that will be perfect. So I don't know though how that will register on my eyes because I have olive undertones on my skin. But we'll see. We're playing around with this palette today. Alright, so now let's try the bottom row and we'll start with this color. This is the color Adorn. Now this one looks to be quite red, so let's spot it here. Okay, so it wasn't as red as I thought it was going to be, but it's a deeper orangey tone in comparison to that of the color Desire here. Okay, next let's try the color Lovesick. Now this one still has a red undertone to it. Ooh, very interesting. Now this one, in my swatch in my arm, looks quite orange, but it's deeper. Almost, it has a very terracotta kind of a tone to it. Very nice shade though. Interesting. Okay, and now let's try the next color. And this color is called Bliss. So again, this looks to be warm on the palette. Okay, so this one has more brown tones in it, but it still has that reddish tint. Interesting. Next, let's try the color Evermore. Now this one looks to be, it's already heading into the brown part of the color spectrum. So yes, perfect. Nice color. It's quite neutral. It's a little bit warm leaning, but not warm enough. So at least this will give nice soft definition into the eyes or even to the socket line. If you want to create a very nice, smoky eye look, actually, I think this would be perfect. Okay, all right, and the final color that we have here is XO. So in English, I think that means hugs and kisses. All right, so let's watch this now. Okay, this one I think has a more neutral tone to it, more gray. Yeah, it does. So it's more neutral in comparison to the color Evermore here. Very interesting. So at least we have these two shades here that we can use to define and enhance our eye look. Okay, so now let's try these colors on my eyes. So as I'm looking into the palette here, I'm actually more drawn into the pinky tones here and also the movie tones, because I think these colors here, like the color Desire, Adorn, and Lovesick, and even Bliss might just be a little bit too warm for me. But let's see, because I think this will also work with me, because after all, I have olive undertones in my skin. But let's just play around today, okay? Right, so I'm gonna start first by picking up the lightest shade here, the color Crush, and I'm just tapping the brush head here on the putty formula. I love this formula from Danessa. I think they're actually very easy to work with. They're also very easy to pick up and very easy to lay down into the skin. Okay, look at that. Nice hint of color, nice coverage, and we see that it's already brightening my eye quite nicely. It's acting as a very nice beige shade. So now I want to pick up this mauve shade here, and I'm still using the same brush but the other side now, picking up a little bit of the putty here, just tapping the brush head on the putty, and then I'm just going to apply this all over my eyelid. Oh, that's actually giving a substantial amount of pigment. I was not expecting that, because here on my arm, when I swatched it, it didn't give out this kind of a colorful impact. That's actually so pretty. Look how nice and soft these colors are. All right, so now I'm gonna get this color here. So the putty formula from the color Smitten, and this is how much this brush head picks up, and I'm just gonna lay it into my socket line and use it as a transition color of sorts. Now, I know that when you look at this palette, especially with the putty formulas here, the one in the bigger pan, it looks matte, but I think it has a little bit of some pearl in it, which adds this very nice brightening quality to these products, or specific formula. And I think this is also the reason why when you lay it on your eyes, it gives a very nice soft quality, because I think the pearls reflect the light, and this also gives you the ability to blend it out effortlessly. Okay, so now it's time for us to use the powder formula. So I'm gonna start with the lightest shade here, the color Crush, and I'm just gonna add a hint of the color here under my brow area. Ooh, that's actually a very nice highlight. I love it. And I'm gonna pick up more of this and add some of that here in the inner corner of my eyelid, and I'm adding more of that same color well into the middle of my mobile lid. Now I actually love how this color is registering on my eyes right now. I was actually initially worried how this would look on my eyelid, because seeing the swatch on our arm earlier, I thought it was going to be too white and too light, and sometimes it turns gray, but so far I'm seeing that we still have the pink pigment peeking through this, and again, it's still working very well with the undertone of my skin. Alright, so now let's enhance this eye some more. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use the powder formula of the color Allure here. Just gonna pick up a little bit of this with this brush, and then I am going to lay this into my socket line and create a nice hint of definition there. It's registering to be very warm on the camera, which is actually a surprise for me, because I thought this is more cool tone, more violet, or mauvey. But I think what's happening is that the undertone of my skin, the oliveness of it, is neutralizing the purple or the violet pigments of this shadow. Okay, so I'm gonna go back into the powder formula of the color Allure here, and I'm just using the OG pencil one of Sonia G. I just got this recently, and I'm gonna use this to add a very nice flick here in the outer portions of my lower lash line, and I'm gonna blend that into my crease and socket line just so that we have very nice soft lift going on there. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to enhance my lash line a bit, and I'm gonna start by using the cream color of the Bliss shade here. Just picking up a little bit of this with this brush, and I'm just gonna lightly tap it all over, like, you know, regularly buff it and blend it and smoke it out a little bit, not being too precise. But of course, when I'm applying the color, I apply a much more, like, you know, thicker blend in the outer portion of my eye. Let me come closer. And then make it thinner as I get closer into the inner corner of my eye. Very interesting shade, I have to say. Again, when we look at the palette here, it has a, like, you know, a cool tone to it. But again, when it's on my eyelid, it's more warm. Okay, let me blend out the edges of that color now. Just create a very nice, you know, soft flick in that area. Alright, so now I'm going to use the powder shade of the color Bliss. And I'm just going to set the creamy color of this here on my eyelid. It kind of intensified the color quite nicely. Okay, and let me just create a soft flick here in the outer corner. Doing it also lightly, but not too much. Love that. Okay, let's blend everything now. And now with an even smaller brush head, I'm going to, like, maybe use the color XO now. And I'm going to be picking up the putty formula first, the cream formula. And this is what I'm going to use to enhance my lash line further, to add more intensity here on my lash line area. Okay, and then I'm just gonna get a small, like, you know, eyeliner brush, and I'm gonna get the powder formula now of the color XO, and I'm just gonna lightly run that close to the lash line just to set that cream formula, and also to add, like, you know, some intensity in that area. All right, look at that. Look how enhanced my, like, you know, lash line is right now, and it's just, like, you know, really helping in my eye color pop, and just, like, you know, adding a very nice, you know, hint of pink on my eyelid. And I love it. It's nice and bright, very sweet looking, very pretty. Wow, I love it. Oh, let me go and get like, you know, some mascara, because I think we just need our eyes to, like, you know, really pop. All right, so I actually love how this mascara, like, you know, completed the look. Look how pretty that is. Okay, but most importantly, I was so surprised on how well the lighter shades in combination with some of the deeper shades here was actually, like, you know, able to create this very nice soft yet defined look. And it's just, like, you know, complementing my skin really well. It's also, like, you know, enhancing my eye color really well, and I love it. And I was able to apply it in no time. It was very easy, it was very breezy, it was, like, you know, a no-brainer. Okay, so now what I want to do is I just want to enhance this eye look further, maybe add more, like, you know, depth, because I just want to see on how we can like, you know, bring this eye look from light to deep. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna start and use, like, let's say the color Evermore here, and I am going to be using this brush. And I think at this point I'm gonna start and use the powder formula now, and maybe pick up a little bit of the color from Bliss here, and I'm just gonna apply that here into my socket line and buff that out and blend it out. Ooh, I love the color combination that these two shades created for me. So it's looking to be more mauvey now. And it's also enhancing my socket line quite well. Very nice. And then I'm just gonna buff out the edges of that. Create a lift and blend the color upward and outward. Okay, that's actually very nice. I love that. Very pretty. And then let me get a smaller brush now. Okay, so I have the Crease M brush from Sonia G, and I'm gonna get a little bit of the powder formula of the color XO and maybe pick up a little bit of the color Bliss here. And I'm going to mount that here on the outer portion of my crease and my socket line, and just blend it lightly because I want to enhance that outer area some more. And then just continue to buff out and to blend out the edges. So we still have like a very nice soft definition of color, but you still have that sweetness overall and that romantic feel that this palette actually gives into the eyes. Okay, that's actually quite nice. I love it. Okay, so now I just want to quickly try out some of the very red shades, the warm shades on this palette. And I'm thinking of creating a nice maybe smoky eye look. And I'm gonna use the putty formula of the color Lovesick first. And I'm just gonna apply this generously all over. Okay, so here on my lids, it's looking to be quite red. So if you're someone who has a very light skin tone, you just, I think, need to approach this with caution because you might look sick. Okay, so let's blend out the edges and just create a lift. Okay, and with the same brush, I'm just gonna get a little bit of the creamy formula of the color Bliss here. And I'm just gonna lay that on top of the color, what is this, Lovesick, just to tone down that redness a little bit. Love that. And then I'm just gonna buff out the edges. And with a Rephr number 28 brush, I'm just gonna pick up a little bit of the color Lovesick now, and then a little bit of the color Bliss. And I'm gonna use that to apply the color here into my lower lash line. Okay, and I'm gonna blend that into the outer portion of my eye, really buff it. Then create a nice lift. Okay, so let's smoke this out now, and we'll be using the deeper shades. Okay, so I'm going to get a new pencil brush here, and I'm gonna use the color XO. So we're still using all of the creamy putty formulas. And I'm just gonna apply that here on my lash line. I'm not being very precise with it, but I'm just smoking out the edges so that we have a very nice soft look going on. Okay, so I want to tame down that redness further, so I'm going to be using a smaller blending brush. So this is the J146 from Hakuhodo, and I'm gonna pick up a little bit of the putty formula from the color XO and a little bit from the color Evermore, and I'm just gonna add a little bit of that here in the outer portions of my upper eyelids. I actually love how we're actually able to blend these creamy and putty formulas quite nicely, and they're also very easy to layer and also blend out. Okay, I'm glad that I was able to tone down that redness, and I was also able to add some definition, and now I just have to blend out the edges. Okay, so now it's time for us to set this eye look with some of their powder counterparts. So I'm going to start by using a mix of the color Adorn and Lovesick here. Okay, remove the excess. And I'm just gonna lightly brush that along my socket line. And I'm also going to buff that out and to blend it out. And then I am going to be using now a flat shader brush, and I'm going to be using the deeper shades now. So I'm going to pick up the powder color from XO and Evermore. And I'm just gonna pat that lightly here in the outer V portions of my eyelid and blend that into the socket line. Okay, I'm not being very precise with it because after all, this is a smoky eye look. And I'm gonna blend that into my socket line and buff out the edges. And now I'm gonna be getting a smaller brush. And again, picking up the same shades, the deeper shades, a combination of XO and Evermore. And now I'm just gonna tap that into my lash line so that we have a more intense application of color there. And we have a much more defined look. I think at this portion, I need to add a little bit of the color Tourmaline here. So this is the black shade from the Groundwork's Defining Neutrals palette. So I'm just gonna pick up a little bit of the black color here. And I'm going to add that here, to my lash line to act as a eyeliner of sorts, because we really need a much more deeper shade to add more definition there. Okay, now with a flat brush, I'm gonna pick up the powder formula of the Tourmaline color here, just a little bit, and I'm just going to tap that on top of the Tourmaline color just to enhance the lash line. And maybe to complete the look, let's add some mascara. Look at that, lovely. Now I'm kind of glad that we were actually able to create two looks using the Blooming Romance palette here. So we were actually able to create a light look, and we're also able to create a very nice sultry eye look using this palette. So again, you can bring your eye makeup look from day to night, work to date. Okay, yeah, so before I drop you off, there's one more thing that I want to try some of these colors with, and it's actually with blush. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a hint of a foundation and concealer. But before we continue, I do have to say there's a little bit of some fallout that happened here, as you guys can see here. But it's actually not that extensive, which I'm quite happy about. And maybe the next time I'm gonna be using an eye base for this, just so that I don't get any problems with fallout. Okay, but anywho, that's no big deal. At least now we know the personality of this palette, and we can deal with it accordingly. Okay, all right, so what I want to do is I'm gonna add a little bit of the Lisa Eldridge Skin and Makeup Enhancing Mist all over. And I'm just gonna pat that in. And I'm gonna use my Lisa Eldridge Seamless Skin, the foundation in number 16. And I'm just gonna apply a very nice hint of this all over my skin. And now some concealer to really neutralize all of the unnecessary colors in our under eyes. And this just really helps to make the eyeshadow colors pop on the eyes. Look at that, I love it. Okay, next what we're going to do is I actually want to use some of the colors here as blush, and I'm really loving the color Allure here, and I'm gonna be using this soft buffer brush from Sonia G, because I find that the brush head here kind of fits perfectly into the pan of the putty formula here, and it's actually strong enough to pick up some of the pigment, and it's also small enough to fit there quite nicely. Okay, so I have some of the color here now on the bristle, and let me just tap that here onto the cheeks. Ooh, I love the color tone of this, and I love how this brush applied a nice application of the color, also very precise. And I was also actually able to buff it out quite nicely. I was not expecting that at all. So I guess with this brush, you just have to be very light-handed because it's actually quite strong, I do have to say. Love that color. Also going very well with the eye look that we created. And now what I want to do is I want to pick up a little bit of the color Smitten here, And I just want to layer that on top of the color Allure, because I want to add a little bit of some brightness, because I think the color Allure was just a little bit too cool on my cheeks. Very nice. I like the creaminess of the formula of the putty here, and I can see that there's no patchiness on my cheeks at all, which is nice. And again, very nice layer of color, very well balanced pigmentation as well. These formulas with the pigmentation levels are actually quite easy to maneuver on the face. I love that. Okay, so now what I want to do is, like, since we're playing around anyway, so I want to use the, like, redder shades now, or the warmer shades on the cheeks. So I would like to try the color Desire first. So I'm gonna be using the classic cheek here from the Sky series of Sonia G. Picks up a good amount of color. Okay, so we're, like, doing a tonal look for each of the sides of my face, depending on the eyeshadows that we're using. Ooh, nice color as well. It's actually registering well here on the camera, which I love. But here on my mirror, I'm actually seeing that, like, it's quite light and it's blending into my skin. It's actually a lovely shade. Very pretty. Okay, now I want to try the color Adorn. So this one is, like, very intense. So I have a little bit of that here on my cheek now, and I'm just gonna tap it here. Ooh, okay, let me remove some of the excess here at the back of my hand, and let me blend it out. Now I think if you are someone who has medium to deep skin tones, I think this color Adorn is gonna be a perfect blush color for you. Look at the warmth that it's giving. I'm actually quite surprised to see that it's also working very well with the undertone of my skin. It's actually quite nice. It's so pretty. Love that. Okay, and let me buff that out and to blend that out. Alright, now I know that we can actually use this for lips, but I don't want to do that because I'm very specific with the kind of products that I use on the face. Now, of course, if this is going to be a personal palette for you, I'm sure you can use this, like, in any way that you want to. But since I am a makeup artist, I can only use this, like, very specifically, and I choose to use this for the eyes, and now I can also use this for the cheeks. So after this, I'm going to have to spray everything with alcohol just so that it maintains its integrity. But so far, I am loving how the Blooming Romance palette actually worked with me today. Alright? Okay, so I believe we have come to the end of my vlog for today. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. And again, I love how everything worked with me today. And there were some colors that I was, like, just surprised on how pigmented they were. Like, example, the reddish tones that I used on this eye. But I was very happy to, experience that I was actually able to adjust them and just able to tone it down. And that, to me, is actually quite perfect because it makes the palette quite feel-safe and adjustable. Okay, all right, so that's it for me today. So if you guys have any more questions about how I use the Blooming Romance palette from Danessa Myricks, please let me know down in the comments box and let's have a conversation about it. Okay, all right, I'm gonna let you guys go now. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope that you're having a good day wherever you are. Bye.